Welcome back to my top 10 series in Marvel Champions. This one's going to be all about the top 10 solo Justice heroes. As always with these lists, though, I want to make sure that I define what it is that I'm looking for when I make these top 10 lists. Because if I don't define what I'm looking for, essentially any hero can fit in and there's an argument for it. So I want to make sure I'm clear with what I'm looking for. So when I'm looking to pair a hero with the Justice aspect in solo, I'm looking for heroes that have both good villain damage and minion control, because that's not something that Justice is good at. And it's important that your hero can do that, because ultimately, to win the game, you have to have damage, because you have to defeat the villain. And then being able to deal with minions, again, just very important, because basically every scenario has minions you want to deal with. So apart from that, I'm looking for characters that have really high card value, in the sense that the cards that they're looking to play that are in their own kit are very powerful and very good. And then they also want a setup, and they have a reason to be an alter ego. Because that's one of the biggest things about Justice to me, is that it allows you to access alter ego in a way that the other aspects can't, at least not as well. So I want to make sure I'm making use of that with characters that have cards that they want to set up, because again, Justice can slow down the game and let characters reach their end game state. And then also, since I can go to alter ego, I want to make use of that. And again, some extra rules for these lists. I'm excluding heroes that made my top 10 aspect versatile list, because they're good in all the aspects. I don't want to just make lists that all look the same. And I'm not including multi-aspect heroes in these lists. And for this list specifically, I wanted to start out with an honorary mention. And that's going to be Iron Man, because he fits exactly what I'm talking about. But he's also kind of weird in the sense that he's looking more so for tech than anything else. So I wanted to separate him out from the list, because there's like the protection builds with all the tech, and there's other things that you can do with him that make a little more sense to me than just using the Justice aspect. But again, he fills this criteria of having good villain damage, good minion control, high card value. He wants to set up and get his suit built, and he has a very good alter ego ability. So characters that are similar to Iron Man with a little less, restrictions, to where you don't have to be looking for specific traded cards, are going to be what I'm talking about for this list. And then a final point here before I start talking about the top 10 is that Justice to me really amplifies your hero's strengths, because it allows you to set up. And this episode, instead of giving different builds like I did for the other ones where I recommend a few different cards in the aspects, I'm going to be focusing on the identity specific cards, because that's what this is about to me. And for the Justice cards that I'm thinking about cards similar to this. So like Under Surveillance lets you get alter ego access, makes the main scheme a little safer. We have For Justice, multitask and clear the area. So again, you get a lot of thwarting for good value, clear the area in one way or another, lets you draw cards. Skilled Investigator lets you draw cards. Surveillance Team like builds up. Sonic Rifle confuses. So like this is the kind of deck that I'm looking at for evaluating these heroes, but I'm not thinking of very specific decks. And also, this list of Justice cards isn't exhaustive, so I'm not saying that these are the only Justice cards that are good. I'm just using this as an example to show you what it is that I'm talking about when I'm saying that these heroes pair good with Justice, is that they pair good with the decks that fit this sort of vibe. Now that that's all out of the way, and you know exactly what it is that I'm talking about and looking for, let's start with number 10, which is going to be Gambit. So Gambit's identity is that he's really wanting to build up charge counters and empower his attack events. And he has very good damage in his kit with his charge to card and his Royal Flush. So he doesn't really need to add damage. But then also, you notice his Thwart event is a pretty good card, but it only works in Alter Ego. And it removes 3 threat from a scheme and confuses the villain. And also, he has a way of thwarting an alter ego with his Thief Extraordinaire ability, where he can look at the top 2 cards in the counter deck, discard 1, and then remove threat, equal to the number of boost icons on that card. But then since you got to look at 2, and you're only discarding 1, you know what your next boost card is going to be, and you can give yourself what boost card you'll get when you flip up eventually, so he gets control from that as well. So he has a few different reasons he wants to be an alter ego. And also, he has a couple upgrades in his kit, notably his armor and his staff, that help him reach a powerful state later on. So I think Gambit is a great candidate for using Justice in solo, and that's why he made the top 10 in the number 10 slot on this list. Now going on to number 9 is going to be Groot. So Groot is another character where I feel like Justice really helps him get his strength up because he is literally growing in strength throughout the game. So his growth spurt action lets him place 2 growth counters. He has this alter ego support that's really good. That lets you place a growth counter and draw a card. So he really wants to be an alter ego to build up these growth counters. And eventually his 2 I Am Groot cards become very powerful because he can get up to 10 growth counters on him. So I Am Groot says remove threat from a scheme equal to the number of growth counters on Groot. So if things are going really well, you can remove 10 threat with 1 card. And the same thing with his 2-cost attack event. This is deal damage equal to an enemy equal to the number of growth counters on Groot. So if it's going well, you can get 10 damage out of that card. But if you don't have Justice and you don't have access to your alter ego, you don't have as easy of a way to build up your growth counters, because the best way to do that is just by sitting an alter ego and using your growth spurt and your fertile ground. And not only does he want to be an alter ego, he has 4 different upgrades. So he has a big boost in power when he actually gets his setup. Like one of them lets him ready. He can get upgrades to his basic stats. Very powerful stuff. But he just really needs to grow. So I think Justice goes extremely well with Groot, and I highly recommend you try out Justice with Groot. Moving on to the number 8 hero is going to be Colossus. So Colossus is a character that I didn't enjoy that much when I first started playing him because he can be really awkward. But I think Justice helps him out a lot with that. So when you go to Alter Ego, you get to shuffle a Colossus card from your discard pile into your deck, which those kinds of abilities are always really good. And he also gets bonuses from flipping up. So when he goes from Alter Ego to Hero, you get to give him a tough status card. So this immediately indicates to me that you want to be flipping with this hero. But the problem is he doesn't have any threat removal in his kit. So like the closest thing he has to good threat removals in his kit is Armor Up, which says when the villain activates, change to hero form. So you can change to hero form, get a tough status card from your response, and then you can switch the villain from scheming to attacking, but then you kind of ignore that because you get the toughs. And that's kind of what he wants to do with this. And the studio also lets you discard cards from your deck until you get a Colossus card and add it to your hand. So for all these different reasons, he really wants to be going back and forth between Alter Ego and Hero. And if you don't have Justice, it can be very difficult for him. And then when you do have Justice and you can actually flip reliably, you'll get a bigger hand size, which is a huge deal because he only has 4 hand size in Hero. And when you get that 6 hand size, you're more likely to see your good cards. So again, he has these 4 upgrades that he really wants to get onto the table to reach his full strength. But if you only have 4 hand size, it's going to take a lot longer to actually see those, and it's going to slow you down a lot. So getting to that 6 hand size and then being able to use both of your abilities and then see Armor Up, which is one of your best cards, I think is a very good way of playing Colossus. And Justice really helps him out with that. So that's why I think Colossus is a great candidate for Justice. Now on to number 7 is going to be Bishop. So Bishop is one of the newer heroes, and I think he's a very, very powerful and fun hero. So his alter ego response is after you change this form, you add a temporal card in your discard pile to your hand. So his weapon upgrades, so his Bishop's rifle and his uniform are both temporal. His allies are temporal, and his resource cards are temporal. So those are all really good targets that you want to add to your hand. So going to alter ego with him is really good. And then his response on his heroes after he takes the amount of damage, discard an equal number of cards, add the top card, or a number of cards from the top of your deck, and you add each resource card discard this way to your hand. And that triggers really well with his upgrades. So his uniform says after you resolve energy absorption, which is his hero response, you get to heal 1 damage from Bishop for each resource card in your hand. So it makes him very, very tanky. And then he also builds up to a very powerful state later on in the game because he has 2 copies of Supercharged, which lets you get up to +8 attack, and he can just get those built up. So damage is not an issue for him when in the game. He can just one-shot the villain with those 2 Supercharged attacks, and that's kind of crazy to me that he has both of those. It's so good. And this rifle says you exhaust it, choose an enemy, and deal 1 damage to that enemy for each resource card in your hand. And it gains range. So again, a very powerful upgrade. So once he gets set up where he has his uniform and his rifle, and then you build up the counters on your supercharge, it's just so powerful. And Justice allowing him to go to alter ego and flip back up helps him out with that a lot. Now the number 6 hero is going to be Wasp. And Wasp is a little bit different than these other ones. So Wasp has a lot of attack events in her kit. So Wasp Sting and Pinpoint Strike. She has a lot of copies of both of these cards, and they're great attack events. And then her alter ego action says shuffle up to 2 cards with a printed mental resource from your discard pile into your deck. And her attack events have mental resources. So that means that you can shuffle in your attack events. So by playing Justice and going to alter ego, you're actually increasing your damage, which I think is a great combo. And not to mention other stuff she can do with the Genius shenanigans. It's like Moongirl and Nick Fury and the Genius resource card are all mentals, so you can shuffle those back into your deck as well. So those are basic. That's why I wasn't making that the main point here. But there's a lot of mental resource Justice cards too. So that her alter ego ability is just so powerful, and the fact that she increases her damage while utilizing that alter ego ability is why she's such a good candidate for Justice, in my opinion. And the number 5 hero is going to be Quicksilver. So Quicksilver is kind of ironic in the fact that he's a speedster, but he takes so long to set up. So he has all these upgrades where he wants to upgrade his stats, and then he essentially just gets to ready a bunch. But it takes a while for him to get to his final state where he has all of the upgrades that he wants. But when you're playing Justice, again, you can slow down the game, get some more time to get those upgrades, and then eventually become incredibly powerful, buffing up your stats and readying multiple times in one turn, and just dealing with the board state like that. His Friction Resistance and Servo Industries are very good cards. Friction Resistance especially because it says after you ready Quicksilver, ready this card, and you can generate a physical. So that essentially becomes 2, 3, 4 physical resources that you can generate in one turn with him. Very good. And then Servo Industries, again, you get to just shuffle 2 Quicksilver cards from your discard pile into your deck, which is very good when you have the ability to go to alter ego. Because when you get to shuffle certain cards into your deck, that means that you're going to be able to prepare yourself to deal with whatever situation you're in. So because of Quicksilver's ability to build up to a very powerful board state, and alter ego helping him achieve that a bit more, that's why he made the top 10 list. And number 4 on the list is going to be War Machine. So War Machine, I think, is fantastic in Justice. He is he's very linked to his alter ego from both his munitions bunker, his upgrade chassis, and his alter ego ability. So you have an action which lets you, on James Rhodes, to shuffle a War Machine card from your discard pile into your deck, which, again, those types of abilities are really good. Notably, there's an errata here that limits it to once, so you can't do it multiple times, where this just doesn't have a limit on it. So you can just keep doing it over and over, but they went back and fixed that. And then also as a force response, this is kind of a negative, but after you change this form, you discard each MO counter from your identity. And he's really linked to these MO counters. When you flip back up to hero form, your response gives you 5 more MO counters on War Machine. And all of your abilities spend your MO counters to get powerful effects. But the problem is he runs out. And the best way that he can build up those MO counters is by using his alter ego ability, or his alter ego support, which lets you exhaust it to place 2 MO counters on here. So regardless, to make use of his kit, you have to go to alter ego to get those MO counters, but that can be tough without Justice that lets you flip down safely. But once you use Justice with him, you can flip down safely, and then you get access to your munitions bunker, and you get more MO counters when you flip back up. And also his upgraded chassis says after you switch to hero form, you can exhaust that to give him a tough status card. So again, you get a tough status card for flipping, which is very powerful. And he has a bunch of upgrades similar to Iron Man, to where he actually wants to build up to a final board state. So I think Justice really works well for him, and it really helps him unlock his power. Another fun thing, I feel like I have to mention this, is Float Like a Butterfly and the Shoulder Cannon is a crazy combo. So Shoulder Cannon isn't limited to once per turn. It is an attack, which you remove an ammo to deal damage. Float Like a Butterfly, if you confuse someone, lets you increase that damage from each attack. And since they're all individual attacks, you're essentially doubling the damage from Shoulder Cannon. So that's just you just does so much damage that way. And confusing works really well for him. So again, James Rhodes, War Machine, very, very good in Justice. Number 3 on the list, it's going to be Black Panther. All the way from the core box, he's making it up to this list. That makes me happy. So the reason that I have him on here is that his kit is extremely self-sufficient. Once you get all 4 of your upgrades out, you can basically deal with everything except for high threat, because the tactical genius is the only way he has to thwart in his kit other than his basic thwart, and it's only 2 threat per Wakanda Forever, so that's not the best. So his weakness, if anything, is thwarting. But then he also has the Golden City, which is an alter ego action that lets you draw 2 cards. And when you flip down to alter ego, you get to use it, so you draw 2 cards. But then before you flip up, you draw 2 cards again. So every time you flip to alter ego, you'll be able to draw 4 cards once this is on the table, which is huge. An absolutely crazy powerful support. And then Justice fills in that gap that he has of having a little bit low thwart stat. But then he also needs that extra time to build up, because he's getting all 4 of these upgrades. Justice provides him that time he needs to build up to his final state. So for all those reasons, I think Justice is fantastic for Black Panther. I think it works really well for Black Panther, stalling the game, letting him get access to alter ego, giving him time to build up all of his upgrades, and then eventually just using Wakanda Forever over and over again and being very strong with that. So if you haven't tried him in Justice before, I encourage you to try it. Now on to number 2. It's going to be Domino. And Domino, I think, again, these top 4 heroes on the list, I think just work so well with Justice. But Domino has so many upgrades that she wants to get out, and damage is not an issue for her. She has 2 copies of her pistol, along with the probability field, which she can increase her stats. And then also she has very good attack events in her kit, so damage is not a problem for her. But you notice she has a 1 thwart stat, and she has a lot of upgrades that she needs to get on the table to reach her full strength. So that immediately indicates to me Justice. And not only does she just want time to build up these cards, but she also has very strong alter ego cards. So Pip the Pug says exhaust Pip the Pug, put 1 Domino or Posse card from your discard pile on top of your deck. And then she works really well with knowing what cards are on top of your deck, because you get all these effects based off the resource types. And the Painted Lady says response after you discard a card from the top of your deck, you can attach it there. And then when you go to alter ego, you can exhaust it to add the attached card to your hand. So it gives you insurance against if you discard a card that you don't want to discard, you can get it back. But then also it allows you to to repeat powerful cards like that. So again, 2 very strong alter ego supports combined with already having a bunch of damage and then having a bunch of upgrades that you want to get out to reach your full strength. Fantastic Justice hero. And before we move on to the number 1 character, I encourage you to pause the video, let me know who you think it's going to be, because I like seeing that. I think that's one of the most fun things about making these top 10 videos. Okay, no more delay. The number 1 hero for solo Justice for this list specifically is going to be Ironheart. And I think the reasons should be pretty clear at this point based off what I was saying about the other characters. But Ironheart has upgrades and supports that you want to play. She's trying to build up to her powerful state, and then once you get to her end state, she basically just wins the game, because she has so much threat removal with 3 thwart and her propulsion jets allowing you to remove threat equal to reversion number. So that's going to be 6 thwart minimum, not even counting your events, every turn that you after you get to version 3. And then you just essentially store damage however much you need, because once you get to the 3rd version, you store progress counters on her, and then you can just remove a progress counter to deal 2 damage to an enemy. So you can essentially just keep building progress counters even after you get to stage 3, and then you just have the damage for basically anything. So you can literally just sit in stage 3, build up enough counters to where as soon as you flip the villain to the last stage, you just remove all the counters and win the game. The only problem she really has is losing to the threat before she gets to that stage, because again, you have to be in alter ego to reach full strength with her, because her child prodigy is you spend a mental resource to place a progress counter on her, and she has a very good alter ego support that also lets you place progress counters. So going to alter ego with her to maximize those progress counters and speedrun your path to version 3 helps her unlock her full power. And then you want to slow the game down to make it to that state, which is why Justice works. And with Iron Man being the honorary mention, also a little bit of foreshadowing that Ironheart was going to be the number 1 hero here. And that concludes this top 10 list. Here they are, listed out, my top 10 solo Justice heroes. I hope you try these out and let me know how it goes, because I like hearing from all of you. Part of the reason I'm making this is just to give all of you some ideas of different heroes to try in the different aspects. And hearing about that makes it feel like I'm doing that this is worth it, and then I'm having a good time, and it really makes it a lot more fun for me to make videos when I get to interact with everyone in the comments. So if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff that helps out small YouTubers like me. Stay zesty, and I'll see you next time.